What's up, guys? So, today's gonna be a little different. Has your Dreamcast ever done this? You know that thing where every time you turn on the system, you have to like put in the date because it doesn't remember it? Well, it turns out that there's actually a battery that's soldered to one of the PCBs inside this thing. And when that battery goes bad, it no longer is able to hold date and time. Well, it's not that hard of a fix, and there's something else we can do to make it even easier for whenever that ever happens again. So I thought I'd take you guys through the process step by step of replacing the battery in this guy, so that way if it ever happens to you, you know what to do and can do it to yours. All right, let's hit the table and we'll get it done. So before we begin here, I feel like I should say, be careful if you decide to try to do this at home. I have a friend who does a lot of soldering, and he was thorough in trying to teach me the do's and don'ts. Now, hopefully I remember enough of it that I can do this project without too many big problems, but again, if you're going to do this, make sure to do some research beforehand of proper soldering technique to make sure that you don't hurt yourself or damage anything. That being said, you can get you your soldering stuff and we can get started. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is actually take the Dreamcast apart so we can get to the internals of it where the battery is. So you're gonna flip it over, and then there are 4 screws you gotta remove. There's 1, 2, 3, and then there's one underneath the modem here. Now that we got those screws out, you're gonna have to fiddle with it a bit to get it to come loose off the AC adapter here. But the lid should just lift right up. There we go. There we go, comes right out. There we go. And we can put this off to the side. And so since my camera doesn't like to zoom in, I'm just going to punch in right now so you can see what we're looking at here. Because what we're actually going to be messing with is this control board right here, where the controllers actually plug in. Because the battery itself, right here. But the battery itself that we're unplugging, that we're going to be replacing, is this guy right here. So what we need to do is we need to undo these 4 screws right here, unhook this ribbon cable, and unhook this fan cable. We do that, the control board will come right out, and we can get to replacing the battery. So I'm going to start with the fan cable. Should just slide right out. Now with this ribbon cable, be very careful because these things are surprisingly fragile. According to everyone, the best practice is just to slip your finger underneath it and pull straight up away from the board. And then it pops right free. And now let's get our screwdriver back. Let's get these screws out. There we go. And now with all of that out of the way, control board should just lift right out. And so this is what we actually need, because we're going to be replacing this battery right here. So let's just set this over to the side. Let's take our Dreamcast and put it away. And so now we have our controller board. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the solder off of these 3 points right here, removing this battery, and replacing it with a new one. So let's get our little station set up so we can get our soldering done, or our desoldering done, I should say. Alrighty, so what we're going to do, we're going to take our solder wick. Remember, it's these 3. 1, 2, 3. Take our solder wick. There we go. We got our old battery free. So I don't have a desoldering iron. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the soldering iron and some solder wick and try and get as much of this old solder off as I can. And now, as you can see, with how kind of dirty that made it, this is a good time that if you have some isopropyl alcohol, take that and a cotton swab and just clean that up a bit. And pray that something else didn't get messed up in the process. So you remember how I said that the fix we're gonna do is actually gonna make this easier in the future? Well, what we got here is a new battery, but we've also got these little clips so that if these batteries ever die again, we don't have to do any resoldering. We can just pop a battery out, put a new one in, and call it good. So I'm gonna test real quick to make sure that it fits properly and that it does indeed go all the way through the holes to make sure our desoldering job was good enough. As you can see right there, it does fully set in. Now this is where this comes in. Masking tape. I don't have a very steady hand with what I'm about to do, so I want to make sure that as few things will go wrong as possible. So I'm going to take masking tape and use it to hold that clip in place while I get to soldering. So we're just going to drop our little dude in place here. Grab ourselves our little bit of masking tape. And just find something to stick it to. So that way when we hold it upside down, it won't pop free. There we go, that should be good enough. So we drop it back up, we flip it back over, and now we're gonna solder those joints back together. So, as was explained to me, good solder technique is to actually heat up the post, the point where you're gonna be like gluing things back together, let it get hot, and then introduce new solder. Right, like that. That looks like we might have done it. Turn the soldering iron off just so that thing can be cooling down. And then we'll pull this free, and remove our masking tape job. Yeah, it's definitely not the best I could have done. But for me to have never soldered anything before, I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna use a little more isopropyl alcohol and a few more cotton swabs just to clean up the area just a bit. Just to make it look a little, less bad there. But we've done it. We've replaced the soldered in battery with a replaceable part. And that's where this new battery comes in. Now, this looks like a normal 2032 battery, but it actually isn't. This is, instead of a CR 2032, this is an ML 2032. These are rechargeable, and that's what the Dreamcast requires. Like, you could put a regular 2032 in there. The Dreamcast is going to attempt to charge this battery, and it won't do anything, and the battery will eventually die, and you'll have to do this again anyway. The rechargeable makes it to where you don't have to do it near as often. Like I said, this console came out in 2000. It is now 2023, and I'm just now having to do this. But because of our fix, we no longer have to do a soldered battery. We can just match up our positive to our positive, and we can just pop it right in place. So in the future, all we have to do is just pull this out. We don't have to actually take the board out and do any more soldering. So let's get the Dreamcast back together and see if it worked. All right, let's plug it in and see if it worked. All right, so if this worked, I will turn this on. I'll have to set the date and time, and then I can turn it off and should be able to, it should keep the date and time after that. So turn it on. It helps if I turn the TV on. Okay, January 13th, 2023. Turn it off. And if our fix worked, this should go right back to the menu, not have to set the date and time again. All right, ready? And there we go. So there we go. That's a fairly easy thing you can do to your Dreamcast to fix its problem of not holding the date anymore. I'll list the stuff you need to replace that battery in the description down below, and that's all we got. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to bringing you even more informative retro gaming content in the future. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one, y'all. What is today's date? I don't even know. It's the day before the video's due, in much later than 1998, in 2023. Let's entirely date this video. It is 12:40.